Good evening. I hope that you guys have all had a very good day today. It was beautiful outside. Hopefully you went outside and played. I'm sure that your parents hope that you went outside and played today. Maybe after you got your schoolwork done or some chores around the house. I hope you did. So I'm glad that you're joining me this evening to listen to another Bible story about kids from the Bible. I thought that might be a really fun topic to explore on our Wednesday nights. This lesson is great for preschoolers through 5th grade, maybe a little bit older than preschooler, but they can listen along and get something out of the story too. Last week we talked about Miriam, who was whose sister? Who did Miriam belong to that was famous in the Bible? Anybody remember? Moses. And if you said Aaron as well, then you get bonus points, Michael. She was a great big sister. She looked after him, and she was very brave. And tonight we're going to talk about another kid from the Bible who was also very brave. I think that I probably don't have to give you a whole lot of guesses as to who you think tonight's story is going to be about. Any guesses who this might be? Might give it away with the different colors in his coat. Yeah, tonight we are going to talk about Joseph. And while our story takes place, he was around 17, so that's older than you were, but that's still a kid. You're still not ready for the ways of the world at 17, are you? Ask your older sister or older brother, or even your parents. They'll probably tell you, no, not quite ready. Still, maybe youth age, but still a kid. So I want to refresh your memory of the story of Joseph. So I'm going to read the story first, and then we will talk about it. Okay. I like this version. It's simplified. Joseph has a very long, big story, a lot like Moses does, and so this simplifies it a little bit. And you might remember some of these parts. Okay. Once upon a time, in a land far away, a young boy lived with his father, Israel, and 11 brothers. The boy was named Joseph. 11 brothers. Any of you have 11 brothers? Because that's a lot of brothers. Joseph's father loved him best, and Joseph's brothers hated him because they knew Joseph was their father's favorite son. Israel gave his son Joseph a very special coat to wear. It had many bright colors and jewels all over it. Now, when Joseph wore his new coat, his brothers hated him even more. Now, I know, in Ms. Barbara's classroom, what are we not allowed to say? And I know many of you are pointing that out right now. But they disliked him a great, great deal. One night, Joseph had a dream. He thought it was a wonderful dream. In his dream, the sun, large and bright, and the moon and 11 stars came to Joseph, and the sun and the moon and stars all bowed down before him. Perhaps we should remember that dream. The next morning, Joseph ran to his father and brothers to tell them about his dream. "Do you think your brothers and I shall bow down to you?" scolded his father. Joseph's brothers laughed and made fun of him, but they hated him more and more. One very hot day, Joseph's father sent him out to check on his brothers. They were tending the sheep, and Joseph was to see if they needed more food. His brothers saw Joseph coming from a long way off. They saw his brightly colored coat, and each said to the other, "I hate him. I wish he were dead. Let's jump him and scare him." When Joseph came closer, his brothers grabbed him. They tore off his colorful coat. They threw him in a well which had no water in it. Poor Joseph. He was scared and wished he was home with his father. His brothers sat down to eat supper. They didn't give Joseph any food. They didn't want to think about Joseph. While they were eating, a caravan of men on camels came up to the camp. "Where are you going?" asked Joseph's brothers. "Egypt," said one of the riders. "We go to sell spices and creams and perfumes." The brothers put their heads together. "Let's send Joseph to Egypt." So they sold their brother as a slave to the men on their way to Egypt. Then they took the brightly colored coat back to their father. They told him that Joseph had been killed by a lion. Joseph's father was very sad. When the brothers saw how sad their father was, they were sorry they had sent Joseph to Egypt. Meanwhile, the ruler of Egypt grew to like young Joseph, who learned a lot and always did what was right. Years later, when Joseph was a grown man, he was made the ruler of Egypt. One day, some men traveled to Egypt to beg the ruler to let them buy food. Their families at home were hungry. As Joseph sat on his throne, 11 men bowed down before him. He knew who they were, and he said to them, "I am Joseph, your brother, who you sold into slavery. I am not dead." At first, the brothers were frightened that Joseph would be angry at them, but Joseph forgave them, and everyone was happy and thankful to be together again. Joseph and his brothers and their father lived together the rest of their lives. And Joseph's dream came true. It's a very condensed version of that story. Do you remember some of it? Maybe from Sunday school or Bible school, perhaps. There's a lot of pieces to Joseph's story. Now, the first thing I want you to think about is if you're a sibling. I think most of you have brothers and sisters. I know a couple of you don't, but most of you do. How do you feel when the brother or sister might get something that you don't? Maybe they get to stay up later. Maybe they get a prize or reward for doing something that you didn't do. Maybe they get new clothing while you still have your same things. Maybe they got to get a book at the book fair and you didn't. I know that can't be very, very easy. So what do you do? What do you do when that happens? I want you to think back at maybe something like that may have happened. Did maybe you get mad? Maybe you might have been loud mad and said, "That's not fair." Maybe you were kind of quiet mad and went to your room and maybe slammed the door or pouted or maybe yelled into a pillow. Did you do something even bigger than that? Did you say, "I don't like you anymore"? Did you hit? Did you throw things? Okay, so Joseph in our story is given a special, special gift, and his brothers are not. Now, there are lots of things that they could have done with that. They could have gotten mad and they could have said, "That's not fair." They could have maybe slammed the door. I don't know if they probably didn't have doors on their tents, but they could have, they could have gotten angry, maybe kicked some dirt. But they went a different way. They used their fists, didn't they? They used their hands. And what is it that we're always told to do? When we get angry, what are we supposed to do? Walk away. Did they walk away? They did not walk away. So I want you to look at our Joseph. Here, you see him. He's all happy. There's a lot of things that's going to happen to Joseph in his life that throughout our story. So I'm going to start with this color blue here. His brothers are very, very jealous of him. And they kind of beat him up. They rough him up. They use their hands. They use their fists. And they rough him up. And they take his coat away from him. So it's kind of like he's losing some of his color, isn't it? Yeah. He's going to lose a little bit of his color. Now, they're not just going to be done with that. What are they going to do next? Do you remember the part of the story? What are they going to do next? They take his coat and they what? They throw him into a pit. Think of a pit as a very, very deep hole. You guys might not know what a well is, but imagine in your mind that maybe when you went to plant a tree, something like that, you would have dug really, really, really deep. Maybe at the beach, maybe you would have dug it super duper deep. It would be so deep that you can see in the picture, he would have gone all the way down. It would have been dark in there. He wouldn't have been able to see. So now his brothers have beat him up. They've taken his coat and now they're going to throw him in a pit. So they're taking more of that color away that he had. So he's got some physical pain working now, and now he's all alone. He's in solitude. Okay, do you remember what happens next in our story? He's in the pit. Now what we kind of we didn't skip, but they didn't include in the book, is they actually thought about killing him. They did. And he had 11 brothers, and one or two of them were like, no, we really shouldn't do that. That's not a good idea. He is our brother. We love him. So what they're going to do next is some men come along in a caravan, and they say, well, okay, pay us, and we'll let you have our brother. So now, poor Joseph's going to be sold into slavery, taking away even more of his color. And now, I would think that'd be very humiliating. What do you think? If your brothers gave you to somebody else to work for free. I think that's a good humiliation. Now, the next part of the story was kind of jumped over, but he is going to go with a man and his wife, and he's going to stay with them for about 13 years, and he's going to work for them, and he's going to be very honest, and a very, very hard worker, and they're gonna like him a lot, and they're gonna take good care of him. He's gonna work for him, but they're gonna take pretty good care of him until one day when the man's wife wants him to lie to her husband, and he says, "No, I can't do that. That's wrong. That's not what God wants me to do." And she gets angry. Just the brothers got angry, and so she tells a fib on him to make the husband not like him either. So he runs away. He's going to run away from there. So here he is. He's been okay for 13 years. He's been taken pretty well care of. People like him. He's a hard worker. And now he doesn't have that anymore. He is going to have to, he runs away for fear. So now he's betrayed. He's betrayed by the people. Again, he was betrayed by his brothers to begin with, but now he's been betrayed by the second set of people who he thought cared about him. Now, you can see in this story, once he's going to run away, but he's not going to get away with it. He's going to get caught, and he's going to get thrown into jail. Even more of that color is gone. Now, I have never been in jail, and I'd like to think you've never been in jail, but I can imagine that it would be very terrifying to be in jail. I don't think that would be an easy thing. You'd be by yourself, or maybe you'd be with other people who are not very nice. It would be a very scary situation. Maybe you wouldn't get a whole lot of food to eat. Maybe you get yelled at. You wouldn't get to do things. Couldn't go outside. So I think he probably had a great deal of fear in him. Now, his story is going to turn around. While he's in jail, he is going to have even more dreams. Remember we talked about in the beginning of the story he had dreams? He's going to have some more dreams. And he's going to share those with the Pharaoh and interpret the Pharaoh's dreams. And the Pharaoh is going to learn to love Joseph. And he is going to welcome him in, and he's going to kind of make him a big deal, give him nice clothes and feed him and put him in charge of some different things, because again, he's going to be a hard worker and he's going to be very, very honest. But his color's not going to last too much longer, because he is going to face his brothers. There's going to be a famine in the land, if you remember the story. A famine means not enough food. There's going to be not rain. There's going to be no rain, which means no crops, which means no food. So there'll be famine. People are going to be hungry. Now, Joseph had a dream about that, and so he knew it was coming, and so he was helping the land prepare. Now, his brothers lived off away from Egypt, but they're going to come in asking for food. Okay, so now he's got to face the men, the brothers that were so unkind to him, and I think what it must be like to have lost all that color, all of that, everything that you had, all that joy that you have. Now, my Joseph here is still smiling. Do you think that you would still be smiling after all of that happened? I don't know. I don't know that many people would be. That's a lot of things to happen to you. But here's what I'm going to show you about with Joseph here. So he went through some physical pain. Remember when he was kind of beat up and his coat was taken? But you know what he did? He hung on. He said, he took it and he dealt with it, but he hung on. He had strength. God gave him the strength to hang on. More strength than the tape that Ms. Barber used. Okay, so then he's going to be thrown into that pit all by himself. And I can't imagine what that would be like, but you know what he did? He did not give up, did he? He prayed. He prayed while he was in that pit. Prayer gives us strength, doesn't it? It brings back our color. It brings back our joy. It gives us hope. Okay? Now he's going to be sold into slavery, which is humiliating. It's awful. But you know what he did? He stood tall. He didn't fall down and cry. He didn't run away. He stood tall. He hung in there, and he said, okay, I can do this with whose help? With God's help. Okay. Now, he's been with that family, remember? I told you, he's been with it and was feeling good. And then he was betrayed by them. And I'm thinking, after all these troubles, all this stuff, I think I might give up, would you? But you know what? He didn't. He could have told that lady, he could have said, okay, well, I'll do what you want me to do so I can stay here. But he didn't. He did what was right. It is not easy to do what's right, but he's doing what's right and he's going to stick to it. Now he's in jail. And he's terrified, I'm sure. No doubt about it. But you know what he's going to do while he's in jail? He's going to work hard. When you are in jail, sometimes now and back in those days, you would have done work. You wouldn't have just sat there. You would have been a hard labor. You would have done a lot of work. He worked hard and he kept at it and he made the best of it and he knew God was with him. Okay, so then, and because of all that, he was promoted, remember? So the Pharaoh's going to like him and he's going to take him in and he's going to deal with his brother standing there before him. But you know what he did? He wasn't bitter. He didn't send them away. He didn't deny them food. He forgave them. He forgave them. So if we have Joseph had all of these things. He had all these bad things that happened to him. But these were the things that were underneath. All of those bad things and all of the stuff that he went through and all of the feelings, all of this was underneath. He had strength. He had his prayers. He knew how to stand tall. He did what was right. He worked hard and he offered forgiveness. That makes him an amazing, amazing character in the Bible. And I think not only is it amazing that he is going to go through this, but he's going to do this starting as a child, starting as a teenager. He is going to go through all this and come out an amazing young man who is going to forgive, and he is going to go on to live happily ever after with his family. So before we end our story of Joseph and what Joseph was really, really about, I want to talk about something else. As when you're a kid, when you're young and you're in school, have you ever been in a group of people that maybe they wanted to do something and you didn't agree with it? So I want to go back to the story. Remember when the brothers were all there? There were 11 brothers. They didn't all want to treat Joseph this way. They may not have liked him very much, but they didn't think it was right to kill him or to take his coat or even to sell him into slavery. There were brothers who thought that was wrong. But in the end, all the stuff happened to him. Have you ever been in a situation like that? It's hard to stand up to people, isn't it? It's hard, especially when you're a group of people who are like, yes, let's do this. And you know that maybe that's not the right thing to do. And if those brothers had stood up and said, no, you're not taking Joseph, you're not going to be unkind, none of these things would have happened to him. Now, in the end, it worked out for God's plan, and that's the best thing to do. But think of all that pain that he could have avoided if his brothers that knew it was wrong stood up. Think about the pain he could have avoided if he had done what the wife wanted him to do. But he stood up for what was right. Think about how he could have gotten back at his brothers when they came to give him food. He could have said no, but he did what was right. Joseph was a very, very righteous man. So that was the story that I wanted to tell you about this evening, and that there were plans for Joseph, and there are plans for us, and there are plans for you, and I know that you are destined for amazing things. I don't think you're going to have to go through all of these things in your life, but you will have to go through things in your life. We all do, and you will have to decide what the right thing to do is. And I hope that as you're deciding, that you will do as Joseph did, and that you will pray about it, and that you will ask God for his help. Now, we all love crafts, and I think that this is kind of a simple craft that you could do. You don't have to make it this big with all my words and stuff, but if you want to make a paper person and maybe make a beautiful colored coat with some strips of paper or some markers or stickers, if you have those circle stickers, the different colors, you could do that. If you make a Joseph with his really, really pretty coat, I would love to see it. Please share that with me. I hope that you have a good rest of the day and a good rest of the week, and that you will come back for some more lessons. Okay?